Can you imagine dedicating your entire professional life to one organization, bleeding blue and white, for over a decade, only to be coldly discarded when the going gets tough? That's exactly what might happen to Morgan Rielly, the longest-tenured Maple Leaf, as whispers of a blockbuster trade proposal threaten to shatter one of hockey's most loyal player-franchise relationships. The proposal that could break hearts, a stunning trade scenario, has emerged that would send shockwaves through the hockey world and leave Maple Leafs fans questioning everything they thought they knew about loyalty in professional sports. The proposed deal would see Toronto acquire Vancouver's Filip Hronek in exchange for Morgan Rielly and Nick Robertson, a transaction that reads like a corporate restructuring rather than a hockey trade. Here's what this proposed blockbuster would look like. Toronto receives Filip Hronek and Ottawa's 2025 fourth-round pick, while Vancouver gets Morgan Rielly and Nick Robertson. On paper, it might make sense from a hockey operations perspective, but the emotional ramifications tell a completely different story. Filip Hronek represents everything modern NHL defensemen aspire to be: a 6-foot right-handed defenseman entering the second year of an 8-year, $58 million contract. At 26 years old, he's in his prime and coming off a solid campaign with 5 goals and 28 assists for 33 points in 61 games. He's the type of player who could theoretically slot in as Toronto's second-pairing defenseman and provide the stability they've been searching for. But here's where this trade proposal becomes emotionally devastating. It would mean sacrificing Morgan Rielly, a player who has embodied everything Toronto claims to value in a franchise cornerstone. The ultimate loyalty test. Morgan Rielly isn't just another defenseman on Toronto's roster. He's the living embodiment of organizational loyalty. Selected 5th overall in the 2012 NHL Draft, Rielly has spent his entire professional career wearing the blue and white, weathering every storm, celebrating every victory, and enduring every crushing playoff disappointment alongside the fan base. Think about what Rielly has witnessed during his tenure in Toronto. He's seen coaching changes, front office overhauls, roster reconstructions, and countless promises of "this is our year" that never materialized. Through it all, he's remained committed to the organization, never demanding a trade despite the constant speculation about his future. The cruel irony is that Rielly has actually been productive for Toronto. Last season, he recorded 7 goals and 34 assists for 41 points in 82 games. Respectable numbers for a defenseman in today's NHL. He's been a consistent contributor on both ends of the ice and has shown remarkable durability throughout his career. Yet here we are, discussing his potential departure as if he's become some sort of organizational burden. The narrative feels particularly harsh when you consider that Rielly is a British Columbia native who would be going home to Vancouver, a detail that makes this proposed trade feel more like exile than opportunity. The corporate calculation from a pure business perspective, the proposed trade makes mathematical sense that front office executives would find appealing. Hronek's 8-year, $58 million contract actually represents better value than Rielly's 8-year, $60 million deal, saving Toronto $2 million while potentially upgrading their defensive capabilities. The age factor also plays into the calculation. While both players are in their prime, Hronek's right-handed shot provides something Toronto desperately needs: balance on their blue line. In today's NHL, right-handed defensemen are premium assets, and acquiring one without giving up significant draft capital or prospects would be considered a victory. Nick Robertson's inclusion in the deal addresses another organizational need, clearing salary cap space while moving a player who clearly needs a fresh start. Robertson has struggled to find consistent playing time in Toronto, managing just 15 goals and 7 assists for 22 points in 69 games last season. A change of scenery could benefit both the player and the organization. The management perspective. Maple Leafs general manager Brad Treliving has been candid about his assessment of the team's defensive structure. Following their second-round playoff elimination, he expressed satisfaction with the defensive core while acknowledging the need for improvement. "I like the depth of our defense, I like the structure of it, but we still need to move the puck," Treliving stated. "We need to extract more offense from our defense. Not just goals. We can get more volume of play from the other side." His comments suggest that while he appreciates the current defensive group, he recognizes the need for players who can contribute more offensively. This assessment could be interpreted as subtle criticism of Rielly's recent performance, particularly his effectiveness on the power play. The management team has already invested heavily in defensive personnel, adding players like Chris Tanev, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and Brandon Carlo. These moves indicate a commitment to defensive stability, but they also raise questions about where Rielly fits in the long-term vision. The Insider Intelligence NHL insider Frank Seravalli has been particularly vocal about the need for Toronto to consider trading Rielly, offering a brutally honest assessment of the defenseman's current value to the organization. The Leafs need a defenseman who moves the puck, someone who helps them get out of trouble efficiently and out of the zone with more ease, Seravalli wrote. Rielly is no longer that player. He's contributed well enough in the playoffs, surprisingly, but he's not an effective quarterback on the first power play unit, and his game has shown significant signs of slowing down this season. Seravalli's analysis cuts to the heart of the matter. Rielly may no longer be the player Toronto needs him to be, regardless of his emotional connection to the organization. The suggestion that his contract could become burdensome adds another layer of urgency to any potential trade discussions. The player's perspective here's where this story becomes truly heartbreaking from a human perspective. Rielly has a full no-movement clause in his contract, meaning he has complete control over any potential trade. Reports suggest he has made it clear that he doesn't want to be traded, preferring to remain in Toronto and continue his career with the only NHL organization he's ever known. This creates an impossible situation for all parties involved. If Toronto truly believes they need to move Rielly to improve their championship chances, they'll need to convince a loyal, long-term employee to accept a transfer he doesn't want. The emotional manipulation required to make such a scenario work would be devastating for everyone involved. The bigger picture, this potential trade represents something much larger than a simple player exchange. It's a referendum on the value of loyalty in modern professional sports. In an era where players are increasingly viewed as assets rather than human beings, Rielly's situation serves as a stark reminder of how quickly organizational relationships can deteriorate. The proposed deal with Vancouver would give Rielly a chance to play closer to home while potentially extending his career in a different environment. For Toronto, it would represent a calculated risk that newer, different talent might be the key to finally breaking through their championship drought. But at what cost? Trading away one of your most loyal players sends a message to the entire roster about the true nature of organizational commitment. It suggests that no one is safe, regardless of their history or dedication to the team. The emotional reckoning as we contemplate this potential trade, we're forced to confront uncomfortable truths about professional sports and the people who play them. Morgan Rielly has given Toronto everything he has, and now the organization might decide that's not enough. The proposed acquisition of Filip Hronek might make Toronto better on paper, but it would come at the cost of something intangible, the trust and loyalty that define championship cultures. Sometimes the most important victories aren't measured in goals and assists, but in the relationships you build and the promises you keep. Is organizational loyalty just a romantic notion in today's NHL? Or does it still matter when building a championship culture? Let me know your thoughts on this potential trade and whether you think Toronto should prioritize emotional connections or cold, hard hockey analysis. Drop your opinions in the comments and give this video a thumbs up if you're as conflicted about this situation as I am.